known as the Epic Movement. Carl is also responsible for creating the annual movement, Faceless Generation, which is an event that gives voice through artistic expression to groups who have been silent and faceless. To the podium, I would now like to call up our first student speaker, Mr. Carl Matthews.
Yeah!
Hello, everybody. It's hard to believe that 4 years have come by so quickly. And, I never expected that I would be here talking about my Asian Pacific American experience. When I first came into college, APA classes were not even on my radar, and the APA community wasn't something that I was really interested in so much when I first came in. When I first came into ASU, I had a mission. I was going to sacrifice the next 4 years of my life to study and make good grades. I wanted to be a doctor, so I did pre-med, and if that didn't work out, I was going to go with my backup plan, becoming a bioengineer, which was my major. So before I even arrived at college, I had the next 5 to 10 years carefully planned. However, when I finally got here, I got a huge reality check. The student realized early on that being a doctor or an engineer wasn't really the direction that I wanted to go in. I was just doing it because I thought it was what was expected. So we made a huge transformation. I ended up switching my major to religious studies, and I started taking APA classes. What drew me to APA was a class taught by Professor Who eventually became my thesis director. He taught a class on Filipino American experience. This class was a catalyst to find out more about myself and the issues of the APA community. I ended up writing my honors thesis on Filipino Christian workers in the Middle East. In the process of strenuous and difficult, I was attempting to bring awareness to issues that were largely untalked about in the academic literature. I wanted to talk about Filipinos, their religious beliefs, and their experiences in the Middle East. I tried to take on so much because I wanted to prove myself and to others that what I had to offer was something significant. The whole thing made me really stressed out and overwhelmed. And within this process, I received some of the most poignant advice from one of my professors on my thesis committee. She said, "Carl, why do you gotta be all model minority?" She was referring to the fact that I was trying so hard to meet unrealistic expectations of myself by trying to essentialize my entire identity and academic career onto one piece of work, my undergraduate honors thesis. She told me, "Don't try so hard to make this your defining work. The interests you have will take a lifetime to pursue and accomplish. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to answer all of your life questions in one word." So with this one conversation a few days before my thesis defense, that made me realize how I had internalized a lot of expectations and pressures to be the model minority. This assertion that I had to get good grades, overachieve, and feel shameful if I let myself or others down, even the smallest of things. All my life, I tried to live up to my own and others' expectations of me to do something great. Though these things are not always blatantly obvious, I realized how much of my life had been a performance-driven activity of trying to do things to please others. However, it's become in this unique process of discovering my personal and cultural identity that I began to gain freedom. It's been out of this freedom that I've been able to desire to give back to the APA community by recognizing and bringing change to unique issues that surround our community. So one way that I've found that freedom has been through artistic expression. There's something about art that provides a sense of freedom and vulnerability that allows people to see the deeper complexity and humanity of an individual. Creating writing has allowed me to resist and explore the fear and expectations I experienced by giving me a venue to be free to really express what was on my heart. Specifically, writing spoken words has allowed me to break out of the formulaic confines that have typically defined me. So I want to share with you a piece that I wrote about my Filipino American experience. It is through these creative artistic forms that I hope to advocate for issues in our community and provide a voice for those who typically have been unheard. So this piece that I've written to share with you is, really about my Filipino American identity. So here it is. Archibald MacLeish once said, "Anything can make us look, but only art can make us see." So through this piece of artistic expression, I hope to give you a glimpse into my Filipino American identity. I lived and I grew up in Roswell, New Mexico. Not the typical place you would expect to find a Filipino. Growing up there, I just wanted to be one of the guys. But instead, as I look back now, I realized that I was latently racialized. I Soon, I was called in high school Negapino. For what reason, I don't know. It was their way of putting me in a box because my complexity often came as a shock. As I was categorized by my athletic ability and intellectual capacity, I soon began to internalize the myth of the model minority. I tried so hard to be the best. I wanted to do something that would separate me from the rest. So I gave in to the pressure of being the top academic, but instead I gave in to this pandemic, a disease that consumed all of me. I gave in to this performance-based mentality, the symptoms, overachiever, and perfectionist. If I didn't get an A+, I didn't believe I was legitimate. I was taken advantage of because of my intellect. People would be my friends so they could cheat off me. So I had to study hard on geometry and chemistry. It was a world in which I constantly felt the pressure and expectation of being someone who wasn't me. So I came into college with a vendetta to gain knowledge. I wanted yet again to prove to myself and break out of the mold of those who came before me. But I fueled yet again the stereotypes of the model minority. I wanted to be a doctor and an engineer. But I soon found the harsh reality that this line of work was not for me. I realized that I was trying to force myself to do something I wasn't passionate about. So I gave up all those dreams to pursue something that made my heart come alive. When I chose Asian Pacific American Studies, I soon found out why. As I began to realize and learn more about my cultural history and family legacy, a part of me that I never knew existed was awakened. The revelation of my identity. Freedom. See, I found out that my grandfather was an educator in the Philippines. He left his job to do something that he was passionate about. He worked with a man named Frank Lozov. You may know him as someone who went around the world. He came up with a program called Each One, Teach One, a literacy program that taught over 60 million people all over the world in China, the Middle East, and in India. He worked with Mahatma Gandhi, but it wasn't the efforts of Frank Lozov alone. It was my grandfather. It was the Muslim Filipinos of the southern Philippines who the history books do not write about. But I stand today talking about my family legacy, that this is a part of me that I am proud about. And as I began to find out about my personal identity, I found that my identity was found in the very name of my people themselves, Filipino. If you divide it into two words, Pili and Pino, in Tagalog it translates, Pili means chosen, and Pino means fine. And so I'm a Filipino, I am chosen, and I'm fine, and I'm American. So I have the best of both worlds. And so we sit here today as Asian Americans, proud of who we are as we look back at our history and claim what it is we have today. And so as I found out about who I am, I began to gain freedom. And so with that, I want to leave you with this quote that has opened up my eyes and began to change the way that I look at the world. It's a quote by Howard Thurman, an influential civil rights leader. He said, "Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive and then go do it." Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So class of 2010, ATA community, it's time for us to be stripped away from the expectations and the pressures that have defined us. It's time to be who we were made to be, because that is what the world is in search of and created to be. So congratulations. God bless.